Hello noble ones and welcome to Metatron's Academy. So recently we reviewed a video from the channel Equator AI which was titled The Sound of Ancient Languages. You haven't seen anything like this before. Now they have another video like this. It went less viral, but it has some languages that weren't featured on the original video here. So I kind of want to review it, check it out. Also because, man, there are two languages in here that I'm actually quite excited to see how they rendered. Alright, so what are we working with? We've got Etruscan. How the heck they did this, I don't know, because we don't have much when it comes to Etruscan, but it would be interesting to see how they recreated it. Of course, it's not them, though. They rip off these recordings without giving any mention or links. You know how I put the link to them? It would be nice if they put the link to whoever actually did the recording. That would have been nice. Maybe it's asking too much, I don't know. It would be interesting to know how whoever did the recording reconstructed the Etruscan language to this detail. I will, of course, tell you what we know. Then we've got Sumerian, and I love that we're going to review Sumerian because we did Akkadian in the previous one, and even though they're not related, because Akkadian is a Semitic language and Sumerian is a language isolate, meaning that we don't know what it's related to. You know, they live in the similar area, Akkadians in the north, Sumerians in the south, of what would be like modern-day Iraq, if you will. Mesopotamia, you know, between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. Still, be nice to see what it sounds like. Then we have Avestan, I haven't got a clue what this is. I'll skip it. Akkadian again, I'll re-listen to it. Latin, we'll do this one third, but yeah, Lingua Latina, it's nice that they have the little phonemic vowel length expressed. We'll see if it's a different recording this time, and then we have Phoenician. Maybe they'll do a better job this time with Phoenician. Last time it was a little meh. Let's start with Etruscan.
واكل الأوكو أي سأقني ستيريا سكية ننتحري تهدكو واكل شبرشوري لتحمسو الكتار تيريا كيمكلي وكسري حلق تي واكل إتيشوني سولا سيمول أو ريتسلي بكسري سولا سيس واكل لون شيفقيك نكفولي نوشنس واكل سوبنس نونا مولو ريتسي بكسري يعني واكل اتحمسو السكووني مارتسكسكا إشويتو ليلوكوي أبيراسي لتحمسو ليلوكو كويسكو بيريبسكي بنابيرس راكوانيس هوت Tusle ritne tultis nutsente, hamaiti, kuiskat nisfan. Irimartsente hamaiti tas.
Wow, it did not sound at all how I was expecting. Now, whether or not it's a good rendition. Let me tell you what we know. So based on what linguists have reconstructed from Etruscan inscriptions and comparative analysis with surrounding languages, the Etruscan language would have had some distinctive and intriguing sounds that set it aside from the other period languages. They would have had aspirated and unaspirated stops, kind of similar to ancient Greeks, which in this case I feel we are hearing, so that is good. Just to give you an idea, p and p distinctions. And we do believe that it would have sounded very different from both ancient Greek and Latin. Another element to expect would be heavy consonant clusters and possibly two different types of S, one being either a dental or an alveolar and the other one being a palatal, more like the sh in English. Even though in this case we didn't really recognize anything, there would have been words that we could have recognized. Like for instance, the word for Roma, so Rome in Latin, Roma, for them would have sounded something like Ruma. So similar, just a different vowel. And another interesting feature is that they had the word persu, which would have meant mask, but most likely carried over into modern languages, including English, as the original root of the word person. Next, Sumerian.
Udria, Utsura, Riami, Riami, Bararia, Muria, Musuraria. Udulningve payaba, Udulningve mitsidugaba. Esh kalam makaninda. Shwabashurina, kalamaka, ning tabakaba. Anchi tabadabaraba, kian tabadusoraba, munumlulu, bangaraba. Udanyan, bandiaba, enlile, ki bandiaba. Ereshkigalla kora, sanribishe imma brigaba. Bawaba, akurshe bawaba yanki. Kurshe bawaba. Lugalra turtur bandari, enkagalgal bandari. Turtur bina shukam, galgal bina gigudakam, ornishmatorre yanki kake. Ninguna dwami shushu, lugalara angish masalake, urbaragin teshmunagwe, enkira mayarake, urmakdin sangishimarara.
That sounded like a tongue twister. See, the problem with reconstructing Sumerian is that it was the world's first written language, and it has been dead for over 4,000 years, without linguistic descendants. While when we try to reconstruct Latin, we can use modern Romance languages to see developmental and evolutionary patterns and steps. Good luck doing that with Sumerian. Scholars are fairly confident when it comes to quality of Sumerian vowels, but not quantity. We don't know if there was a distinction between long and short vowels, as it's often the case for ancient languages. I personally think that the rolled R would have to be expected, and possibly they would have had, apart from regular aspiration as we hear, possibly the kind of aspirated sound that sometimes we hear in German when they say ich. That maybe that could have been part of the language too. We've got Egyptian again. Let's go.
Tap jinasu harunihin ausar harib nihin anputapi juf imwat nib tayasir jisin paritrahiruta hankit ko opidao ihat nib nafrat waabat ang tinutrim jajatit homata inanat habima chabahituf sasana chaunajim ni mahit sur mauhar bobat nit atra.
I wonder why they always go with the fully shaven Egyptian priest. Like, maybe for a change, give me like an Egyptian farmer. Give me an Egyptian specialist. One of those that was like building the pyramid. Give me a pharaoh, for crying out loud. It's always the freaking priests. This sounds quite different to the other recording we analyzed the other day. I'm not going to go into the details of how we reconstructed, and up to a certain point we reconstructed Egyptian. In the previous one, they were specifically recreating or trying to recreate Middle Egyptian, which is the one that we usually have when it comes to classical writings. I wonder what stage of Egyptian this is supposed to be. Anyways, as I was saying, it's not as difficult, so I can't really judge it as much. Of course, reconstructing Egyptian is extremely difficult because, as all Semitic languages tend to do, they didn't write the vowels. That's the same in the Bible. The Bible is only consonants, no vowels. Well, modernly, yes, they added them as points, like little dots. But when it comes to original text, there is no vowel. One of the way we interpret the Bible is based on the Masoretic system, but there are other systems out there that say, no, it's not this vowel, it's this other vowel. And of course, that can change completely the meaning of a passage. So it's the same with Egyptian. Hieroglyphs do not carry vowel sounds. So those were added. Imagine in English, it would be like writing house without the O, the U, and the E at the end. Now, the E at the end doesn't really matter because it's not pronounced, but basically you would only have the H and the S. But within the context and a certain level of norm in the writing, you would recognize if I write, this is my HS, and you know it means my house. But honestly, it could mean anything, depending on what vowels you put, as long as an H and an S are present in that specific order. So what do? Generally speaking, with Egyptian, we add the vowel of convention when we have no idea. That's usually the E sound, and other times we vocalize it through Coptic, which is good, it's in a way, but it's not necessarily always precise. Akkadian, let's go.
Anarutun kibima, uma malduk napserma, shamashu malduk darish umiri ballituki, she sha ibbashu ina sut shamash machriki ristamni maldikanik, ashum babatim utsuharati shataradim, kima istishu esrishu ashtaparkim, ulta pulini. Ibisaki tuptaili, apunama ibisam shariam tasamahuri.
It's a little reminiscent of like an older version of ancient Hebrew, and at the end of the day, they were related as languages up to a certain extent. In fact, we should hear a little bit of similarity also in Phoenician. Let's have a look.